Good morning. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, on March 29, 2023, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act extending pandemic-related authorizations related to public meetings, allowing remote meeting options for public bodies through March 31st of 2025. Pursuant to that legislation, this meeting of the Charter Review Committee has been duly noted to be held via Zoom. And we have a quorum, and I will call the meeting to order. Present are our members Hyde, Member Lockname, myself, and we have our ex officio members of Town Council Pat Hearn and Town Administrator Chris Coleman. So the first item on the agenda is to review and consider feedback from the FinCom public hearing. Member Hyde, would you like to brief us on the matters that we need to address as a result of that public hearing?
Well, in general, just as a review, it was a great discussion, a lot of good questions from the FinCom that we responded to. And the one item that we discussed asking this committee to look into further is the handling of quorum issues with the Finance and Warrant Commission. Otherwise, there was nothing that we were going to explore further. And this is the reason for our meeting today.
Thank you. And Pat, I see Lauren's joining us. Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning.
We were just beginning, and Nancy, Member Hyde, had briefed us on the question of the majority quorum for the FinCom that came up. And I was just about to turn to yourself and Town Councilor Hearn to advise us on that matter.
Okay. Town Councilor Hearn, do you want to take it away?
Well, so the way we have it set up is right now across the board, quorum is a majority of those present who are on the committee, and it's standardized across the charter. The FinCom always had this quorum number of 7 that was built into the charter, and I believe we've taken steps to gotten rid of it. I think there's something to be said for a consistent approach to quorum across all commissions and committees. So I like what we're doing. I hear the FinCom, they're worried that if they get down to 11, 6 may be able to decide things, but that's between the moderator and the FinCom, in my opinion, in terms of the numbers. And the charter speaks to try to keep 15 at the FinCom. So I prefer the approach we're taking, but I'll defer to Lauren, who has far more experience across more cities and towns than I do.
Okay.
Oh, Pat, thank you. I think it's more, it's weird to have just one committee have a different rule. And I would have to say, unless the 7 is in the charter, which I don't even see, I don't even think you can do it by bylaw. So I'm not even sure it's been officially,
It has been in the charter or in the bylaws at 7.
Yeah. But yeah, the way it is right now, if they got down to 11, they would have a quorum of 6. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing for them to be subject to the same rules as everyone else.
So the charter, the charter now says what? That it's a majority
Of those then in office.
Right, those then in office. So if they had 11 members then in office, it would be 6.
Yep.
And
if they had 15, it would be 8.
So you're not recommending that we say the only exception would be that a FinCom quorum would have to be 7?
I'm not.
Well, that would even be a different thing if we're saying a FinCom quorum is 7, because that's saying no matter how many members, and it's kind of opposite of what I think you guys were trying to do, which is to make it easier to get a quorum. Because if they only have 11 people and they still have a quorum of 7, that's kind of stiff.
So what's their concern about 6 people? I mean, I wasn't present at the hearing, so.
I
Is,
think their concern was if there's 15, it's 8.
I actually, I don't think that's a problem, Lauren, as much as if it's down to 11, 6 people can make decisions for the town.
Mhm,
And they think that's rather concentrated power. That's what
Mhm.
I heard from you.
got it.
well, I don't know if there's, if anything in the charter we can do to address that. Right?
Yeah, and we've written it so that it's at the discretion of the moderator.
Right.
Uh,
So if they
So-
got down to 11, he could appoint a member,
you could appoint 1 member, 2 members, 3 members, or 4.
right? And that would bring the quorum up to 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
And Pat, if I could just for a second, the FinCom doesn't make decisions for the town. Well, the phrase
Nope.
you just used, and I understand you were just saying that, but right, the FinCom is not making decisions for the town.
No, the FinComs makes recommendations to town meeting on warrant articles before them.
Understood. But
If
definitely
I
just-
misspoke, I apologize.
yeah, no, I just want to clarify that for the record. I like simplicity. I like consistency. I think this issue is resolvable, as you said before, between the moderator and the members of the FinCom. If there's a concern about the number, then more members can be added. So I have no problem with our recommendation for consistency across the board.
So what I'm hearing is that it's really not a charter matter, and that the charter does provide the flexibility needed so that there could not have to be a quorum of 6 because the moderator could simply appoint 1 or 2 new members to raise the number of necessary quorum.
I think that's correct.
Okay. Do any other members want to speak on this, or?
My only thought is, and I agree with the discussion. I think they were looking at all the hypotheticals and wanting to make sure that it works and makes sense. And I think to John's point, looking at it this way, clean, simple, consistent is really the way to go. If we can't possibly write into the charter all the what ifs, and that would become very cumbersome. It seemed to me that's what they were going through. What if this happens and what if that happens?
Yeah, there was a lengthy discussion if they end up with 14 members and they end up with a 7-7 vote on a warrant article, what happens? It goes to town meeting without a recommendation. And the
Yeah, and the
majority,
fact is, you could have 15 people and have 7-7 vote. One person could
Could
be out,
abstain.
one person could abstain.
Yep.
So you can't prevent that collision of maybe a tie vote.
nope. And that's when their write-ups become all the more important.
Right.
I see.
I would.
Go ahead,
I'm
John.
sorry.
ahead.
I would say that the discussion that we had with the FinCom was productive and useful in terms of thinking through all of these issues. As said at the meeting, we've been at this for a couple of years, and the recommendations we came up with, I feel very comfortable with. At some point in this process, we have to move on. We have to get this to the next stage. So although I don't think it's too late for us to have convened this meeting or to have discussed this issue, I'm glad we had the opportunity to do so. But I feel like, as I said it before, I feel comfortable with where we came out with it, and I also feel like we're really up against the sort of the end of our process of making recommendations.
Peter, did you want to comment?
In terms of the of trying to accommodate any issue about a tie, is that there?
Well, just generally, we were discussing the feedback we got from FinCom and this whole issue if there's anything that we can do in the charter to address the hypotheticals that they were discussing at the public hearing.
No, I mean, I didn't think during that public hearing that that solutions for that we should be providing solutions in the charter for some tangential hypos.
In fact, I think we have, in a sense of the flexibility.
Of the flexibility, yes, but
Right.
yeah, I mean the whole it took up it was a I don't know, it was a path of let's spend they spent a lot of time on ties, which, and I think somebody said George has never seen a tie in his 20 plus years.
Nor have I.
So no, I
Oh.
didn't have anything else.
Okay, so the other item on the agenda is to consider final edits proposed to the town charter, and I think we did receive something from the select board, right? On the appointment question of if we move to an appointed town clerk.
Yeah.
And I think that constitutes guidance from them. Is that your interpretation, Pat?
It is.
And so would we need to, in order to, first of all, do we want to accept that guidance?
Yes, that was our vote during the meeting, and it's to have the recommended language for the town clerk allow for the town administrator in consultation with the select board to appoint a person to that position. So we
And we
just
do-
need language to reflect that.
And we do that already with the finance director. That's the way it's written for the finance director. So it's not new.
So can we make that edit, that revision?
You can.
So, and I believe I think we did vote to do that at the select board when we were present at the select board meeting.
Correct.
Right, so can you, Lauren and Pat, can you just make sure that we effectuate that and that the
Yep.
final reflects that?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
are
I
there
think-
any, what?
Sorry,
ahead.
I was just going to say, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do think it's worthwhile for everybody to go through the charter again, looking for typos and inconsistencies. Member Hyde found a number of them, which was useful, and we were able to respond at the FinCom meeting to say that we'd remedied that. But I do think, we've all looked at it a lot, but I think a close read would be a good thing for everyone.
All right, so would it be, I think it would be useful, I think, that if we do that final revision, and then if we all look at it again, it's probably would be good to have one final meeting before the next FinCom meeting. Is that something that people think would be a good idea? If we give
Sure.
give it one
Sure.
more.
One thing
Yeah.
I'm sensitive to is the Finance Commission's request to receive materials well in advance, so.
We could do the
should
meeting
be
next week, if that's,
Okay.
prompt with our decisions on
Right.
any corrections.
can we, would it be feasible for us to meet, say, a week from today and just, if we have any final things, that would be still plenty of time before the last FinCom committee, the public hearing, is that?
That works for me.
Morning or evening
You tell,
online or?
I, whatever is the works best for the majority of the committee is fine with me.
We have a
Nancy and I
PPC
both have a
meeting.
meeting Wednesday evening.
This time in the morning, if people can do it, is good, then we can be done and
Is-
get
is-
it out.
Is next Wednesday at 8 work for you, John?
Let's check.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't hear from John. John?
Hold on one second.
Yep.
Sorry, I was just checking my calendar and had trouble getting
Understood.
back in. Next Wednesday, 8 a.m. works for me. And Mr. Chair, it would be helpful just to have clarity as to when our comments are due back. If we get the final draft, and then just from my own schedule setting, if it would
Yeah.
be.
I
just-
think no
Yeah.
later than Monday, that would give 2 days to incorporate any. Does next Wednesday work for you, Peter?
Yeah, that's okay.
Great, all right, so,
The one thing I thought we should do, and I don't know if we want to be sent both red line, black line version, but we should also look at one that accepts all the changes, just to see that
Right.
we've got things correctly
Yeah, why don't
accounted
we
for.
get a red line and one with accept all changes, right? Does that make sense? Then we can
I know the Finance and Warrant Commission needs to and should receive the red lined, and I think it's the red line that would go into the actual warrant book
They
too.
both would go in.
Okay,
One comment that was made to us during a recent meeting was potentially distinction or a use of the term commission versus committee. And I don't, I haven't looked at the charter with that idea in mind, but we may want to just look at that and consider that issue if there is a distinction, or if we want to be consistent on that point as well.
I think,
Lauren, do you have thoughts on that? Is that
yeah, I
something?
think in the section on the Finance and Warrant Commission, we call them a committee. They are a committee, even though they're a commission, but, so we can take a look at that. And Pat, maybe it makes sense for, you and I to go over the black line together, to look at anything we find, and then we can circulate an updated version to everybody to look at.
That's happy to do it at your convenience.
Okay, sounds good. We can figure it out after.
So the only, other than final edits and things, the only revision we're making at this time is to provide that the town clerk will be appointed by the town administrator in consultation with the Board of Selectmen, select persons,
Select board.
select board, which
Mhm.
is consistent with some other way appointments that we do in the town.
Consistent with how we appoint a finance director.
Yes. Right. And I take it that's worked. That's been a feasible means of,
Well, we've had to recruit a finance director and we've done an
Yeah.
outstanding job. So yeah, it worked very well.
okay. Then other than that, then we'll just do some final revisions for grammar, spelling, that sort of thing, but it's pretty much closed, right? Great, okay. The next item on the agenda is open meeting law. We did receive a complaint, a query relative to the meeting we had on the 20th, I think it was. And I would, Pat and Lauren, have you had a chance to review that question, that issue?
So Lauren and I have had a cursory discussion about this. Mr. Chairman, I recommend that you have a conversation with Lauren at some point in time after this meeting so we can promulgate our response.
Okay,
I've asked Lauren to handle this, and I've also asked Lauren to give us recommendations on how to handle meetings moving forward across the board, to give some guidelines to all committees. We're fortunate to have someone of Lauren's stature and knowledge in the open meeting law available to us, and so I think we should take advantage of that.
okay, so would that meeting be with the co-chairs or the entire committee?
Can be with the co-chairs, yes.
Okay, okay. Is
Um,
there,
And
Lauren?
I'd suggest too that then we put the full the full reference to the open meeting law complaint on the next agenda. And you guys can vote to recommend that we resolve it, hopefully based on the recommendations that Pat and I have.
Okay, Peter, are you okay with meeting with Lauren and myself?
I am, yes.
Yes, and Lauren, what, would you send us some times that work for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if right now works. Maybe when we're done with the meeting, we could hop on a call, or we could hop on a different Zoom, whatever's good for you.
Sure.
That's fine.
I don't know that we have a line. Why don't I try and set up a line for a call as soon as
Okay.
I get off?
That's
Okay,
great.
See if
Thank
we
you, Pat.
can.
can do it sometime today? Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Well, we're gonna try and do it right after this meeting. I'll call town hall, see if they have a line that we can
Okay,
get on.
great. And then why don't we, until we have resolved that, we do have approval of minutes. Would you advise that we defer an approval of minutes until we resolve the open meeting question?
Given that we're gonna meet next week, I believe that would be the prudent, the most prudent
Okay.
thing we can
We
do.
will put up, Jess, please put on the agenda for next week's meeting approval of the minutes of February 20th. The select board co-meeting on the 26th, the FinCom meeting on the 27th, and the meeting of today. Okay, and then the last, we have public participation. Do we have anybody who is out there?
We have something in the Q&A.
Okay, can you?
Yep. From Kathy Wallace, 283 Farm Lane, at the February 20th, 2024 Charter Review Committee Public Forum, I was disheartened to witness the dismissive reaction to the input being offered by our town moderator, Jim O'Sullivan. I wanted to understand his proposal that he had researched, but the committee was unwilling to discuss the merits, eliminating an opportunity for public discourse.
I respectfully disagree with that assessment. We spent several minutes, 15 or 20 minutes speaking to the town moderator. His proposal, his first issue was he was not clear as to when a charter commission would meet, when it would be called. He was concerned that it would only be at the call of selectmen, and we discussed the fact that the charter requires that at least once every 10 years there be a charter review commission, but that does not preclude a charter review committee from being called at any time. That's my understanding of that language. Pat and Lauren, do you concur?
Mm.
That,
Mhm.
and I believe,
Yes.
I
And
believe
if I
that-
could,
yes,
Paul, if I
Pete.
could on that,
Yes.
obviously he's not here right now, but I did see Mr. the moderator walking into the FinCom meeting, and he was going to, he apologized. He said, you know, I realized I was reading that language incorrectly. So his reason for going to that FinCom meeting was going to be to sort of to make that observation and say he had been misreading how that worked. And but the way the timing went, he did not end up speaking at the meeting. But he said that to me. That's not, I didn't hear that he thought he said that to somebody else who said that to me.
Right. And yes, Pat, did you?
I had a similar discussion with the moderator as well, wanting to keep the doors of communication open. So I've spoken to him several times this week about several issues, and I think he's fine with our actions, and the party can address the moderator if she wants to understand where he was coming from. I'm sure he'd be happy to speak with her as well.
And the other issue that he had done some research on was the role of moderators in the composition of town charter committees. He forwarded that to us. We all reviewed it, and I believe our suggestion was that he attend the select board meeting the following Monday, and that's a matter.
Which he did.
And that's a matter for the select board, since the select board is the one who appoints the town charter committee. And we also indicated that we would include in our final report to the select board the fact that there had been some discussion of in the future how a select board should go about appointing the town charter. I think that reflects accurately what we discussed with the town moderator. Does my fellow committee members agree?
Yes, I think you captured that. And speaking of which, we do need to be preparing our final report.
Right. So, is there any further? I'm happy to respond to any follow-up.
I don't see anything else in the Q&A, and if attendees have a question, you can raise your hand and we can bring you into the meeting. Looks like that's it, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any further business? Then I will accept the motion to adjourn, and we will meet via Zoom a week from today at 8 a.m.
So moved.
Motion by Member Loughnane, second by Member Hyde. I will take a roll call vote on that. Member Hyde?
Aye.
Member Loughnane?
Aye.
Member Cahill?
Yes.
And the chair also votes in the affirmative. Thank you all.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Bye, goodbye,
Well,
everyone.